Our topic for today is all about the ecological relationships. So let me introduce to you the objectives. At the end of the chapter, students should be able to differentiate the various ecological interactions, discuss the three types of direct interaction, appreciate the importance mutualism, discuss communalism and its significance, and identify and analyze environmental issues and concerns.
Good day, everyone. So our topic for today is all about ecological relationship. What is ecological relationship? It is the population of all the different species that live together in an area that make up an ecological community. From the word itself, ecological relationship, it is the different species that are interacting together. So what is community interaction? It consists of populations of interacting species within a given area. So from the word itself, interaction, there is an interaction happen within the community or within the species of that given area. So community interaction has three types: competition, predation, and symbiosis. Competition. Competition happens when organisms of the same or different species attempt to use an ecological resource in the same place at the same time. From the word itself, competition, species compete for maybe territory, for habitat, or for any resources such as water. So they compete for habitat because there are so many places to live in a community, and also there are many species too. And water, they compete over water because since water is the source of life and many animals cannot be able to live without water, so they compete over water. But competition only occurs when the resources are limited. So competitive exclusion means wherein they exclude their competitors from that part of the ecosystem. When we say exclude, inaalis or winawala. So competitive exclusion is ina-exclude nila ang kanilang mga competitors from that certain area or certain part of the ecosystem. So competitive exclusion occurs because there must be only one species that can be superior for a single limiting resource. So, hindi dapat marami. So, there must be only one species na magiging superior for that certain limiting resource. That is why competitive exclusion exists. Next type is the predation. Predation is an interaction where one organism captures and feeds on another organism. From the word itself, predation, dito na po na-represent ang predator at ang prey. Predator, which is the hunter or the killer or the ones who kills, and prey, the hunted or yung makakain or kinakain ng predator. Why does predation exist? Because for them to survive. The example for this is the lion eating a carabao. So the lion himself, he is the predator or the hunter. Meanwhile, the carabao is the prey. So the one who is hunted by the lion. The last type of community interaction is symbiosis. Symbiosis refers to any relationship in which the two species live closely together. Species always live together in communities, but some species interact in a much more intimate way. That is why it's called more intimate interactions, a symbiosis. The term symbiosis includes a broad range of species interactions, but typically refers to the three major types, which is later on that we will be discussing thoroughly: the mutualism, communalism, and the parasitism. So for example, of this symbiotic relationship is between an anemone and a clownfish. Anemone and a clownfish is a classic example of symbiosis because these two organisms benefit from each other. They benefit from one another. The anemone provides the clownfish protection and shelter. And meanwhile, the clownfish provides the anemone nutrients in the form of waste. As you can see in the picture, yung parang coral, that is an anemone, and the clownfish is the fish. So, ang anemone, nagpo-provide siya ng shelter para maproteksyonan ang isda. And in exchange, para din makabenefit sa each other, ang isang animals from one animal, so the clownfish produce nutrients in the form of waste.
Hi, I'm Nina D. Duerny, and I am the one of the reporters. And now we proceed our topic. There are three types of direct interaction. First is mutualism. What is mutualism? Mutualism occurs when the relationship is advantageous to both species. Example, a flower and the butterflies. Butterflies are necessary because they are bioindicators and can detect even the smallest change in an ecosystem. We ought to all work together to protect our creatures. Example of mutualism: pollination. Pollination, it is a plant reproduction, depends heavily on pollination. Anthers, the male portion of the flower, rub or shed pollen onto a pollinator. The pollinator then transfers this pollen to another flower. And there are the steps of pollination process. First is, insects are drawn to a flower's vibrant petals aroma. Second is, the insects come to the flower to gather nectar, which is a pleasant liquid that other insects consume. Third is, the pollen is transferred to insect when it rubs against the anther while feeding. Fourth is, the next flower draws the insect's attention. Fifth is, the stigma of the new flower, which is the male or female reproductive component of a flower, receives pollen from anther, the male part of a flower, as it feeds on it. And sixth, the pollen then moves into the ovary by moving along the flower style now that the plant has been fertilized. Seventh is, and it is the last, the flower's ovary will develop into seeds, which will be spread to create new plants in pollination method. And these are another types of direct interaction. Dispersal mutualism. What is dispersal mutualism? Dispersal comes in two types. It is a passive and active. When an organism moves from one place to another without the aid of another, as with bats, birds, butterflies, this process is known as active dispersal. When an organism, such as seeds, weeds, or birds, needs help migrating from one location to another, this is referred to as a passive dispersal.
Good day everyone. My topic today is all about cleaning mutualism. But first, what is cleaning mutualism? Cleaning mutualism is a mutualism in which one mutualistic partner removes parasites as well as dead or diseased skin from another. In return, receiving a steady supply of food is called cleaning mutualism. The example of this is a bird eats parasites from outside of a large herbivores. The example of this is a bird eats parasites from outside of a large herbivores. Example ani it's a carabao. Carabaos benefits from birds because the birds eats parasites from the back of the carabao. The next is defense mutualism. Defense mutualism is a mutualism one partner receives foods and shelter, and in return it helps the partner by defending against the herbivores or predators or parasites. The example of defense mutualism is ant acacia system. Ants benefits from the acacia tree because acacia tree have a lots of leaves, and also acacia tree helps ants helps ants to protect from the predators and other parasites. Next is the importance of mutualism. Mutualisms occur in every aquatic and terrestrial habitat. Indeed, ecologists now believe that almost every species on Earth is involved directly or indirectly in one or more of these interactions. Mutualisms are crucial to the reproduction and survival of many plants and animals and to nutrient cycles in ecosystems. The importance of mutualism to the people is we will know about what kind of mutualism we will discover in every aquatic or terrestrial habitat. Next is the commensalism. Commensalism is a relation between two kinds of organisms in which one obtains food or other benefits from other without damaging or benefiting it. The example of commensalism is a bird making a nest in a tree. Bird makes their nest into tree because tree is far from some predators and also from other parasites, and also tree benefits from the nest. Another example of commensalism is an orchids growing on branches.
Hi everyone, I am Jessica Bandera and I am going to report or I am going to tackle about parasitism. What is parasitism? Parasitism, if one organism lives in or on another organisms, obtaining from its host part of all of its nutritional needs. So parasitism is a symbiotic relationship between the two organisms, that is host and a parasite. So what are the difference between the two organisms? The parasite and the host. The organism that benefit for growth, that is parasite, while the one that is harmed or the living organisms on which parasite feeds, that is host. So I'll give you one example. The mosquito bites the human body to get food. So the parasite there are the mosquito and the human are the host. So the parasitism is differentiated into ectoparasite and endoparasite, depending respectively on whether they live in or on and the host. So now I'll give you some example of ectoparasite. So the example of ectoparasite are the lice, ticks, and the mosquitoes. That are the example or that are the some example of ectoparasite. Then in the some example of endoparasite are the malaria parasite and the tapeworm. So the relationship between parasite and the host varies along a spectrum that extend from first, the hit and run. Second is the parasite that establish chronic infection. So why we say hit and run? Because the parasite that lives, or these are the parasite that lives in host and move to another with or without killing the first two. So the second, the parasite that establish chronic infections. So the both parasite and host must evolve to ensure the survival of both, because if the parasite kills its host before it can move on, it destroys its own meal ticket. Okay, so remember the parasitism is involved the parasite and the host. So parasite feed on the host and the parasite win and the host loses.
Good day, sir. Good day, classmates. This is Oliver Galiasa Briones, one of the reporter of Group 3. Here we have number 1, we have a parasitism in plants. A plant's parasites is a daughter's Escota sp. It is often found twined around the stem of clover plants or grasses, which is damaged severely. The other plants consist of a long, slender yellow or pinkish stem with the leaves reduced to tiny scales, and roots being absent except for a short time after germination, and intervals along the twining stem small root-like structures called storia. link to the other to host and penetrate to the host vascular bundle. In this way, the parasites obtain organic nutrients, water, and mineral salt directly from the host. So if we talk about the tertiary time of germination, so meaning to say, let me use some Bisaya here in my report. So nagapasabot siya guys after short time of germination. So meaning to say, dili pag sa mismong panahon nga dili pagid siya dili pagid niya mismo nga mas ma-absorb ang nutrients sa isa ka sa iyang host or sa iyang prey nga plants is naayod siya kining ugat as in maggikan sa yuta para nga mutubo siya pataas balik pa ibabaw sa iyang host. So it has a long slender pinkish or yellow stem. So pasabot na niya guys is if you talk about slender, it is a thin size of its body nga pino siya nga pino yang punuan bagamay pero kanang pataas siya guys ang kining dadder. So as you can see above the picture, you will probably understand what I'm talking about guys. And at intervals along the twinning stem, small root-like structures called hostoria link to the other host and penetrate to the host vascular bundle. So as it getting older guys, the dadder it has a root-like it has a root-like structures guys. It is called an hostoria. As you can see above, we have the picture as an example for your own understanding what is the dadder about. It is pointing itself where is the hostoria. It is an instrument of the dadder where it used as to absorb all the nutrients coming from its host like minerals, water, and etc. Let's proceed to the last part of my report, parasitism in animals. The Bilharzia parasite Cystosoma hematovium, a parasite platform, is a good example of a successful parasite. It completes its life cycle into two hosts. The male and female adults live in the blood of humans, while larval forms live in the bodies of types of snails, Bulinus africanus. The adults possess suckers which they attach themselves to the walls of blood vessels, where the bodies are covered with thick cuticles when mature. Adults mate in the blood of man. The male and female become associated in the slightly brooder rolls its body into the tube in which the long, thin female lives. When the female is ready to lay eggs, she frees herself and moves into small blood vessels in the wall of bladder. There she lay eggs. When the eggs comes into contact with waters, its shells breaks a ciliated larva called a merasidium. It's released if it's in contact with the host. It works herself into the body of snails by means of hydrolysis, sparesis. The cercaria are produced after several germinations of sparesis. The cercaria make their way into the water and make contact with the human. Parasitism in animals. So this parasitism, we have two target hosts. We have the humans and a snail. So what's the process? So we, the humans, as we release our urine or dirt to any places where the snail or the second host are present, the Bilharzia parasite starts the life cycle. So as you can see above the picture, I have attached the example as your guide for you to understand what I am talking about here. So now I'll start. So by means of life cycle of a Bilharzia or of this parasitism, the adult male and female will live in the human. So as you can see above the picture, the human release eggs, and that will expose with water, and that will start to hatch their eggs, and that would cooled as a miracidium. As you can see above the picture, you will see the life cycle of this parasite. So as the egg hatch and the larvae are present, the, the larvae start to swim to contact with snails. And by means of a hydrolysis sporosis. And then the snail will produce a cercaria. As you can see above, the cercaria will swim through to the body of water, of course, and will contact with a human. And then, as they penetrate to the body of human, the cercaria will start their new journey in the body of human and will start a new life cycle or the other life cycle. So that's it for my report for today. Thank you for listening.